Okay. Okay, so I'm going to try it this way. I'm just recording the screen directly so that you can see my mouse. I don't know if that'll help really much, but I wanted to sort of point at the image in some way. Okay. Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong's head. Donkey Kong's head, right? The island is Donkey Kong's head. I'm very interested in that. I'm very interested in what that means exactly, and what this path through the head means, and what the different areas mean. Because okay, so one thing we could say is the factory level. This factory level on the top of the area is Kremkrok Industries, and it's very distinctly different from the rest of the island because it is different from the natural environments of the island, in some way. It's a factory. It has been built there. And and so it's there's something about it that I feel is different from everything else. Okay. The thing is, like, because everything else is sort of prehistoric, sort of natural in some way, you know, and so you get this strange path from all these like caves and jungles and plains and lakes and stuff, all the way to this. Suddenly, there's a factory. Now, from a game design perspective, I think this makes sense because you got a difficult level at the end of the game. Uh, Early levels don't involve so many mechanisms, so they're slightly easier. But as you advance, more and more mechanisms come up, and then the factory is almost like the epitome of a mechanism. It's filled with wheels and pulleys and levers and things that would make the gameplay difficult. So obviously it makes sense to place it as one of the later levels, right? There is a certain progression to that. You start with this sort of untouched nature, which isn't very full of strange mechanical objects. So it's perfect for a first level, and then you move onwards to the mechanical level. I think this happens in other games too. Like, I think this happens in other games where the first levels tend to be less filled with strange objects, and so the difficult levels later on in the game, sometimes I've noticed I think there is a tendency to place factory levels and big mechanical levels as things that appear later in games. Okay, so there's that. However, of course, we have human construction in the form of the temple itself. Like the what you call it, the temple, Vine Valley, I think. But it's it's different in some way. I think you have construction everywhere, right? You have the cabin here. Obviously, there is Funky Kong's cabin. There's all the different cabins throughout the game, so that there are like constructed things and technology and stuff like that. But again, like I would argue that this factory really like stands out as a part of the island that has been just boinked on top of it. The temple is like that too, but it almost feels like the temple is a ruin. So it's an old temple. It could represent like a prehistoric or early historic temple that is now filled with vines, right, as the name suggests, and so has been run over by plants and is an old part of this island. It is like an old thing. There is the irony too, and I'm just realizing this now, that the whole fucking island is a big construction, because the whole island is a not a factory, a statue, you know? So, it's hard to know, obviously, exactly whether that is something that the Donkey Kong himself made, whether the Kongs chiseled this island to look like an effigy of Kong himself. Obviously, this stuff is not, as far as I can tell, this is not part of the story. I don't think this is ever expressed, because obviously it's cartoonish video game stuff that you wouldn't question exactly in this way, probably. But it does open this question that, what is the, look at it this way. What is the relationship, I suppose, is what I mean. What is the relationship between construction and naturalness in this game, right? Because a whole island shaped like Donkey Kong is something that is almost inhuman. You wouldn't be able to make an island look like Donkey Kong with the kind of technology that Donkey Kong seems to have, and with the small amount of Kongs that we see on the game, right? It's a task. It's a task that would require enormous amounts of labor and technology and stuff like that. So there is a slight kind of uncanny valleyness to it, that it's simultaneously a statue, but it's also a natural environment. It seems to have just been like this from the start. You could almost say that maybe Donkey Kong looks like the island instead of the island looking like Donkey Kong. Okay, so it's like Donkey Kong looks like the island, right? So it's not so much that the island looks like Donkey Kong. Like, maybe it's the other way around. It almost seems as if Donkey Kong comes out of the island. Anyway, so there is the whole thing in this game about the island being like an effigy of Donkey Kong, right? An effigy, some sort of a constructed representation. Something that you look at and you see that it looks like Donkey Kong. Okay, so then I'm interested, because you've got this strange relationship between the factory on the top of the head is a constructed thing, and I think it kind of evokes thinking, because it's filled with cogwheels and levers and pulleys and moving parts that are constantly in this perpetual motion, just the way that thinking appears in cartoons sometimes. Like in old cartoons, cogwheels sometimes represent thinking, you're thinking very hard and the cogwheels are turning, So it's like wherever there is factory-like technology, it feels to me, if it is placed on top of the head, it's like Donkey Kong's head is the factory, and it's moving and thinking and constantly processing stuff. That's the sense I get. So that could be one of the things that's happening. But then I'm interested also because in Donkey Kong's cabin, like when you start the game, you see that Donkey Kong's cabin has a little painting of a ship on it. So you're in the cabin and you're looking at a painting of a ship. It's a represented ship. It's an effigy of a ship. It represents a ship. But you're looking at it, you see it, and it is a ship. But then later, you see, you go up to the island and Donkey Kong sees a ship, because the ship is in the direct eyesight line of the island. It almost feels as if the eyes are looking directly at the ship. So you're seeing this ship. And this time it is, quote unquote, a real ship. It's no longer an effigy. First, at the beginning of the game, you saw an effigy, a symbol of a ship. And then at the end, you see the real ship. But it's interesting also because you literally jump from the eyes. Like that's the thing I'm really curious about. You jump from the eyes to the ship. You've been traveling the island all this time, right? Like, to be silly about it, you could have just walked from the first stage to the ship. You could have probably just like gone over to this shore and then you swim over to the ship, right? Like, clearly the passageway from the eyes to the ship is more difficult in physical movement terms because you're up at the top of the island. How do you get down to the ship? You need to climb back down to the shore and then swim, and then you're at the ship, right? In physical language terms, that would be the thing. You like Donkey Kong would have gone right up there and then boom. However, you could say that Donkey Kong doesn't see the ship here, right? Because it's covered by all this forest and jungle. So from this vantage point, you finally see the ship. Like, you could have seen it from here. Okay, but imagine, you stand here and you're like, oh, wow, there's a ship. Now you can go towards it. But it's funny because if that's what's happening, that's taking place directly on the eyes of the island. So it's the eyes of the island that allow you to see the ship. It's like suddenly there is a strange union between Donkey Kong's physical eyes and the island's represented eyes. They are joining as a team. The big self and the small self are looking in the same direction. It's like the eyes of the big self and the eyes of the small self suddenly like link up. Boom, and now you see the ship. You see, and you could see the ship from the beginning in the sense that you could see its effigy. You could see the painting in your house. It's in your very house. There is the painting of the ship. But it's like you need to unite with the eyes of the island in order to actually see the real ship. And then be able to go there. You go there once you see it. There is something about screen technology, I think, in this game in general, because there is the way that the final boss pretends to be a video game, like King K. Rool fake dies, and then you roll the credits, and then it's a joke. So it's like, it's almost as if during that fake credit roll, you get this fake credit suggesting that the game was made by Kremlings. The game itself was programmed and thought up by Kremlings. So it's like suddenly, you, the player, are looking at this game, right? And this game is an image on the screen, and it surprises you. It says, aha, no, actually, like, I wasn't. Like, I'm real, or something like that. Like, you're looking at this game, and it pretends to be a game that has ended, but it hadn't. So I don't know. I feel like this weird way that the ship, the final area, ends up being a video game that then the island itself is looking at through the eyes, I find interesting. Especially when the passageway has been from the factory to the eyes. So you move from this big, like, thinking space, maybe, to the eyes. The eyes then, like, process what has been in your psyche, maybe. It becomes aware of it. Like, maybe this is, like, in your mind, working away in your mind, but you're not fully, like, seeing it. And then you see it. There could be also a strange resonance between the two, chimneys of the factory and the two, mountains, the two peaks of the island too. Because it's as if, right, these two areas are together as well, and they both have two protruding things coming out of them. It's just that in one case it's like natural parts of the environment, and then the other one it's not, or whatever, right? But they're both like the head. Because when you think about it, it's funny that Donkey Kong's head should be an enormous peaked thing, you know, like this whole part of the island is very realistic. It looks a lot like Kong, like Donkey Kong. This doesn't look at all like Donkey Kong. That's not how his head develops. It feels like, to me, it makes it feel as if Donkey Kong's head is this sort of limitless place that expands out into infinity, into the sky in some way, you know, like the unconscious or something, or the mind in a way that expands outwards and touches the sky. It almost like you literally can't see it crossing the frame. It crosses the frame of the image, right? So there's something about it that's like hidden, or it touches the hidden in some way. But then this like more archetypal mountain thing that touches the hidden gets formulated into a slightly more concrete formation, which might be the factory, right? Something that can actually be seen, or that is in motion in the physical world, in space-time, and then it gets observed or something, and boom, it's the Kremlin ship. And which is interesting because, of course, the Kremlin seem to be the ones who made this factory. Like, this is Kremkrok Industries, so it has this sense of, it's Donkey Kong Island, but it's the temple too has Kremlin faces on it. So this strange history, as if it's Donkey Kong Island, but it's scattered with Kremlin constructions, you know? So it feels as if the Kremlins have something to do with Donkey Kong's mind, maybe. After all, they both have the same desire in some way. They both want the banana horde. So there is a union in their desires, you know, which could suggest a union in their selves, right? That they are two entities that want the same thing. Anyway, so there's that. It's funny also how the eyes are caves. I that's interesting. Obviously, it makes sense that it would be caves from just a whatever geographical perspective. Caves are perfect ways of representing the eyes in a statue. But it also makes it be that the caves are very dark. You can see it here in the image. The caves are dark places. And we associate vision with light, with seeing things that are not dark. I don't know. There's something interesting about that somehow. That the final area that you're on, that's actually on the island. The final area, basically, because this is just a boss battle, right? So this is the final area. The final area are caves which represent the eyes. Right? Why do you end the game on vision? And then why do you end the game on vision, on the vision of something that will be the first area of the next game? So what you're seeing here is almost like the next game, the future. Donkey Kong is seeing the first area of the next game. The next game will start directly on the ship and will move on to new places. You know? There is also this sort of strange duality between Donkey Kong seems to represent static. You know, an island is an immovable, heavy object. There's no way this island's going to move anywhere, right? However, the Kremlin seem to represent pirates. Again, they are pirates. They can move anywhere they want. They don't have a fixed abode exactly, you know? Sure, there's Crocodile Isle, but but I think that becomes the symbolic texture of the next game. Like in this game, the Kremlings, all we see of them is a ship in some way. It's the opposite of an island. So we have an island versus a ship. These are the two protagonists. There's a strong island and there's a fluid ship. The ship can move anywhere. So this is the antagonism. The antagonism between a fixed spot on the ocean and infinite spots on the ocean that could go anywhere. Complete fluidity, you know. It makes sense in some way because Donkey Kong, the whole game is about Donkey Kong has a big mountain of bananas, a banana horde, and it disappears, right? So the banana horde wasn't going to be there forever, right? Like you can hoard something, but it's not going to be there forever. Like it's something that at some point, you know, whatever, bananas are going to rot, or you're going to eat them all, or something like that. It's like the static nature of the banana horde gets taken away. Like the Kremlings almost represent this sort of, again, like this fluid change that compromises the static identity of the island. It's like, this banana was here, now it's not. This thing was here, now it's not. On some level. And the other thing to explore is why a temple, right? Why did the Kremlings build a temple and a factory? These seem to be the two buildings they make. A religious building and a building of whatever, of making stuff, of production. As if as if those are their two interests. Those are the two interests of the Kremlings, are like worship and production, or something. Like something related to the divine, to the worship of the divine, in some way. And then something about the creation of new physical objects or something. So spirit and matter in some basic terms, you know, like creation of new material objects and creation of spiritual connections or something. And again, the temple is the pathway between the ground of the island and the top of the island. There are no more sub areas between the top and the bottom. There is a direct jump from the bottom to the top, mediated through this middle step, which is the temple. The temple mediates going from earth to heaven in some way. And then heaven brings us directly with whatever, like consciousness, and then this sort of awareness of it or something. So yeah, I'd be interested to know exactly more what this area plays, what role this second area plays in the game. Like, what is it? Right, of course, the second area is a mine. It's the mines. So that already indicates the beginning of work being made on the environment, right? This is like an untouched jungle. There's the cabin, whatever, yeah. But it's an untouched jungle. But suddenly you get here and it's mines. You're starting to work on the untouched environment. You're mining it, right? It still hasn't become an enormous monument or construction, but it's a mine. You're starting to build something out of it or to extract something from it. Then an enormous religious monument is made. And then whatever, the mountains, I'm not sure what role they would play in this. And then, right, you've gone from mining to religious ruin to a factory. I'm interested in that sort of triplicity, or that sort of passageway from one to the other. Something like that, yeah. Okay, that's interesting, because So the Gorilla Glaciers are described as being impossible to climb up to. Like no one, like people rarely climb up to them because they're too dangerous. Could it be that you can't climb up to them until some sort of work has been done? You know, like some sort of technology needs to have been acquired in order to even climb this mountain. You need whatever, like special shoes or something, or special equipment, or building some sort of a vehicle to go up. So it's as if maybe your mines monument, and boom, this sort of creates the means necessary to climb the unclimbable. And then from the unclimbable, again, you reach the final area of the game and whatever is happening there and the vision and stuff like that. It's like Donkey Kong is having a vision or something. And again, this whole thing of the effigy, right? Donkey Kong himself is an effigy of himself. The effigies... I don't know. I think something is being said about that. So, okay, that's probably enough for now. So, yeah, thanks and see you again.